Hello everyone, good morning. This is Heman, a Senior Research Associate at South Asia Research Institute for Minorities. Today I will be talking about Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar's journey towards Buddhism. With one and only one Dr. Jaimine, who himself walked on the footsteps of Dr. Ambedkar. I mean, there is no other person who can narrate the right story from being Dalit to Buddhist. Let's discuss about Buddhist caste system and how converting can help people get out of the caste hierarchy, or is it the way to escape just the caste? So, thank you and welcome, Dr. Jamin, for joining us. So, my first question is: would you like to tell us about what Buddhism is and what are the core teaching of Lord Buddha?
So, Heman and your teammates, I'm very much glad to be invited to speak about this issue, which is not so widely discussed in the mainstream sphere. And the topic discussion is also very timely, considering how the atmosphere, especially political and social, in South Asian region, especially India, is heading towards. So, this is a very contextual topic, I would believe. So, starting with the very first question and the premises made before your first question, I would say that conversion towards Buddhism is not just a personal choice, it is also to do with the cultural revolution, and that is about leaving the casteist religion and embracing Buddhism. And I think that's what Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar made it a very revolutionary tool to bring about emancipation and liberation among the lower caste, also called as so-called untouchables. Coming to the very core teachings, in fact, Buddhism is very vast. It is not just limited to only one book or only one teaching as such. It also depends upon the aspects and the perspectives you look into. So, for example, if you are more concerned about using Buddhism as a tool to smash casteism, it also gives you the flexibility to actually smash casteism, patriarchy, or even homophobic nature, because Buddhism strives for social equity and cultural emancipation. Uh, the very core teaching starts with the two important lessons, that is, Four Noble Truth, that life is about suffering, there is a cause behind suffering, there is an end of suffering, and there is eight multiple ways to overcome this suffering, and that is what connects with the second important lesson, and that is Eight Noble Path. So you can say that these are the core fundamental teachings from where the science of Buddhism emerges. Later on, it gets more technical, it gets more psychological, it gets more social. It also, gets into more philosophies, spirituality. It also depends upon where you look at when you talk about Buddhism. So, however, I think in current times in India, it is used as a tool to counter the fascism of Hindutva or maybe dictatorship of the society. Thank you, Eamon. Can we move to the next question?
The conversion of Buddhism initially started by the Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, who embraced the religion and moved to follow Buddhist faith. What was his reason for taking this bold step?
Actually, Buddhism facilitated the vision of Dr. Ambedkar. I would say that Buddhism actually revived the identities and self respect of so called untouchables, and Dr. Ambedkar is a raft, he is a vehicle through which this vision could be accomplished. On 14th October 1956, 5 lakh so called untouchables converted to Buddhism, and it comes at that period of time when India was newly independent. Although we won so called independence in 1947, yet the society was not free. The nation was free. As long as there is casteism, there is no freedom. And Dr. Ambedkar revived the important lessons of Buddhism by, uh, you know, using it as a RAF or something that will help the untouchables always in the coming time. We often see conversion into Buddhism, but now it is at a very swindling rate compared to what Dr. Ambedkar did when there was no social media. Then the Dalit Panther movement also played a huge role in retaining the lessons of Buddhism, the political sides of Buddhism, etc. But however, in recent times, considering that how the love jihad provisions have come, where mass conversion is discouraged, it is quite problematic to say that in our democracy, uh, even the right to choose our own religion is bounded by the state's intervention. In fact, Buddhism is much more personal, it is much more social by nature, and it cannot be at the discretion of the state's approval whether we wish to convert or not. In recent times, if you check the India Spend report of year 2007, 17, and 18 recently, not hardly more than hundreds have been converting to Buddhism. Also, the onus is on many Bahujan leaders, many Ambedkarite leaders to propagate the idea of mass conversion, but however, it is not happening on unfortunate grounds.
So, Jamin, would you like to shed some light on the new anti-conversion law? How it is simplified and what's the reaction of a people and how it has changed the current scenario of India?
See, the recent love jihad law, as I said, that there are certain provisions that requires administration intervention to do mass conversion. So obviously, it is a tool intended to discourage mass conversion. India's democracy is very mature. India's constitution gives us the right to live our own religion because religion is a personal choice. As known that it is given to us when we are kids. Later on, with the development of rational consciousness, we understand what is best for us. The same is with me. I was born a Hindu, but I'm not going to die as a Hindu because I'm already a Buddhist. I propagate, I teach, I learn. And it is very important because Buddhism is more in behavior than in thoughts or mere rituals. So, coming to this love jihad provisions, I think it's quite problematic that it discourages mass conversion. And also, at the same time, it is intended to discourage interfaith marriages, especially between Hindus and Muslims. And at the same time, there are collateral impact of such law because not just interfaith marriages would be discouraged, intercaste marriages would also be discouraged. Coming to the maturity of India's democracy, I think we are a highly syncretic country, and just merely one book or one religion cannot be the need of the hour. India's history has been rich; it is highly diverse. There may be unity in diversity, but unfortunately, there is no unity from diversity. However, we require huge amount of social consciousness to counter this, and Buddhism in its own section and part is doing its role.
Jamin, discrimination against Buddhists in India and other South Asian countries have intensified the conversion of Dalit to Buddhism, which might impact the political scenario. What's your reaction on that?
Look at the very macro perspective. Since your organization is associated to fight for the minorities' rights in South Asian region, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, which are highly, Islamic republic, we have seen a systematic elimination of Buddhism. In fact, if you look at the ancient India's history, Buddhism used to be the official religion of that so-called Akhand Bharat geography that we have been talking about. So, coming to this particular aspect, I think it is quite challenging to even revive Buddhism. Had it not been Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, I doubt in 20th or 21st century the conversations around Buddhism would have emerged. Buddhism is very vast. In Sri Lanka, it is practiced differently. In China, it is practiced differently. In Western world, it is practiced different. And in Japan, it is practiced different. And in India, it is also practiced differently. So you can say that these are different lenses of Buddhism which help us to expand our perspectives, or horizons to look into it. So coming to that particular aspect of conversion, it's quite problematic to see that Buddhism in other South Asian countries except India has been systematically eliminated. The challenges faced by Buddhists in Bangladesh is also very, visible. We can see only India, Nepal, and Bhutan being conveyor and retainer of Buddhist teaching. So it is very important to be respectful towards religion as long as we wish to tolerate each other. But however, the secular fabric and credentials are at stake as we see the rise of right-wing fascism in South Asia region as well, and that is why it could be very challenging in the coming time to even deal with the conversion rate.
As census has recorded 84.43 lakh Buddhists all over India, over 65 lakh only in Maharashtra. After that, no census has happened. Will you emphasize on that? What's the reason behind that?
Yeah. So the census population should be out, but however, in recent times, for past 2 years, we have seen the lockdown cases due to which the data was not accumulated and collected. And politically, India is striving towards the surveying and collection of caste census data. Except one political party, all the opposition parties are striving for the caste census data because it's important to understand where India's democracy is heading. We may have growth, but we may not have development. And even if we have development, it is also focused on at certain pockets. So the caste census and overall census is actually need of the hour, but however, the conversations about it or around it has systematically collapsed. So we do require demographic, religious-based census as well to check uh, what are the various religious and their conditions are, at what rate are they trying to grow. Because in South Asia, as you know it, we are more attached to the religion than any other aspects, and it's very unfortunate that we cannot imply it in our behavior. So I think this is a very larger topic to talk about, which requires a very special different session to analyze the delay, the structural challenges, the operational, uh, you know, debacles or crisis that we are facing towards the surveying and collection of census data.
As you know, Dr. Ambedkar identified fraternity, equality, and liberty as the three factors required for uplifting an individual in a religion that was present in Buddhism and hence embraced Buddhism. What's your take on it?
See, the Buddhist principles, the teachings of Buddhist principles since 2500 years has always been striving at liberty, equality, fraternity. However, this principle became quite official with the course of French Revolution, and later on, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar borrowed it from the lessons of French Revolution and imbibed it. In fact, if you look at the token of Ashoka emblem, it is highly Buddhistic by nature. If you look at the Indian flag, the chakra in between of the flag is also Dhamma chakra. So we do have connections and tracing with the Buddhist realities. If you look at the contribution by King Ashoka, if you look at the contribution of King Harsha and many other Buddhist kings, India has always been a Buddhist country. In fact, there was a time when India almost became a Buddhist country. However, with Pushyamitra Shunga and Gupta dynasty, Hinduism was revived. And then we also have Islamic conquest and British invasion. However, the British invasion was very helpful because the archaeological findings of Buddha was revived. If you just check the data about it, otherwise we had almost became a lost case. Even before Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, Ayothi Thassa from South India, have been a propagator of Buddhism. Anagarika Dharmapala, who is also a national figure in Sri Lanka, has played a huge role in reviving Buddhism in India and Sri Lanka. So every century you will say some or the other being arrives to revive Dhamma Chakra because the wheel of Dhamma will always revolve and rotate.
Dalit youth are a part of the future generation, are unwilling to accept all hierarchies. Therefore, political power will rest with the parties which bring all religion and communities together.
Mhm. Uh, if you look at the Hindu society structure, it is divided into five parts: the Brahmin, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, Shudra, and Ati Shudra. The Ati Shudra are extremely untouchable. The Shudras are the servant class. So you will find even tribal societies and many other untouchable societies, even below the Mahars, who constitute a majority in Maharashtra, especially in terms of Buddhist demography. And casteism is not just visible directly in terms of open discrimination, as we have been seeing. If you look at casteist discrimination, it happens in many multiple forms. Casteism is in food, casteism is cultural, casteism is in marriage, casteism is in conversation. So it has become a quite meso and the meta culture of the whole caste aspect. And it requires a very special analysis to smash casteism. We, in fact, need to invite more people who face oppression and let them have their space and the mic to share their lived in experiences and standpoint observations with regards to the discrimination that they face, especially Dalit women who are the victims of the intersectional oppression. Oppression is no more, direct as we used to learn in social science spaces. Now it is much more intersectional. So this requires a very larger aspect to examine and investigate, because a mere 5 minute, 10-minute conversation or a writing will not do the needful. Even if you look at recent times, how many important Dalit figures were cancelled and eliminated from the school syllabus, from the education. So it is obvious that the oppressor wouldn't let the oppressed study about their own history. So we are seeing systematic and grand manipulation, and recently I have written about it as well, that how many important keywords pertaining to democracy, equality has been deleted from the school syllabus. So this all hints at where exactly is India heading towards.
Just tell me about what is the nature of distinction you are making between Brahmanism and Brahman person.
See, Brahmin person is a privileged outcome of the Brahminical structure, and vice versa. They have been enjoying the intergenerational privileges in terms of finance, in terms of social power, in terms of cultural status. So the identity of Brahmin is actually stemmed from the maintenance of the caste structure. They often are vocal against caste-based reservation, but they do not open up against caste-based atrocities, because caste-based atrocities will often, uh, protect the privileges of the caste structure, from which the identity of Brahmin will benefit from this whole Brahminical structure. So this is a very uh, historic, this is not something very contemporary. But however, due to social media consciousness we are talking about, we are also seeing subaltern movies by P.A. Ranjit, you know, and many other Marathi directors about caste structure. Unfortunately, the Bollywood is not leading the role, except it comes for tokenism, because it is very important for the Brahmin identity to realize their intergenerational exploitation that has been carrying forward. So, if casteism promotes social mobility, why is that by birth I am not a Brahmin? It's like we can say that you can be a Brahmin through your work occupation or through your qualities. But then, however, it's the birth based social contract called caste that determines the quality, the identity of a caste.
Would you like to tell us about the Muslim consciousness, the relationship between Muslims and Dalits in India?
See, the Muslims by religion constitute the biggest minority. They constitute of 14% of population in India alone. There are more Muslims in India than in Pakistan. India is a very accommodative country, and the accommodation is quite limited and unfortunate for the Dalits. If you look at the Shudra and the OBC status, they constitute the majority. However, the OBC community is not so vocal against caste-based atrocities, and that is very unfortunate and problematic. That is why the integration between Muslim and Dalits or the other minorities, including the transgender community, the women community, the tribal community, should be integrating in order to smash the very exploitative structure that oppresses them differently in different ways. The disintegration between the minorities of India is leading the fascist tendencies of the contemporary scenario. So Jai Bhim and Jai Meme is what somewhat sloganeering on social media and even on ground reality. But however, it is not happening because even Dalits face oppression from the Muslims. Even the Muslims society is not open to talk about the status of Pasmanda community. The Sayyid community, uh, becomes automatically the upper caste in Muslim structure. Although Islam does not talk about casteism, but however, the South Asian Muslims do practice casteism. Even in your country, that is Pakistan, the discrimination is also based on religion. You will see Hindus and Christians often doing manual scavenging task. And in India, uh, the South Asian Muslims or the Indian Muslims do practice casteism. The conflict between the Sayyid versus Mullah is quite similar. The Sachar Meet 2005 about the action plans on emancipating the lower caste Muslims. However, it is not in practice. So there is a need of the hour for the upper caste Muslims to acknowledge their privileges rather than just dismiss the idea of casteism existing in their religion or society. We need to understand that there is no always a formal structure of castes. There are many informal aspects too. So I think this can be a beginning lessons for the Muslims to initiate their fight against oppression because it cannot be solely based against fighting a political government. It has to be fighting against many social fascism.
Currently, the country has celebrated 75 years of independence. So, basically, to open up, how do you see the last 75 years of Dalit intellectual movement?
See, technically, the independence movement is farce. The Britishers might have left, but we are carrying forward the same structure that they established. On this 15th August, a Dalit boy was killed for touching the water. A 10-year-old Dalit boy on the Independence Day occasion was smashed and killed by his class teacher for touching the water pot or for attempting to drink the water. So when we talk about independence, we should be asking independence from what and independence to what. We may have overthrown the colonial rule, but the hangover still stays. And the colonial hangover is just recent, but the caste hangover still exists, due to which we need to uh, understand that liberty has not been practiced so widely. Even today, women are insecure. If you look at the recent reports, India is also known for being an unsafe country for women. So imagine the plight and the predicament of Dalits and tribals. That is why it does not make sense for any rational person to celebrate the so-called Independence Day because it is just transfer of power from the Britishers to the upper caste.
Coming back in a certain sense to the last question about 75 years of independence, one of the ideas dear to Dr. Ambedkar was, especially as he came into the Constitution Assembly, was to find way to treat Dalit as non-Hindu, but to create them as another minority within Indian state. But that idea was lost into the negotiation that unfolded in the Constitution Assembly. Do you think that he had been able to stick to that, or these past 17 years would be different?
See, if you look at the Pune Pact of 1931 and 1932, the biggest gross error was actually done by the so-called father of India, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who did not allow separate electorates for the Dalits. Because Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi believed that the Dalits or the lower caste are part of the Hindu structure and a separate electorates for the Dalits will dismantle the Hindu society. That is why Dr. Ambedkar differed from Mahatma Gandhi at that period of time. And if you talk about emancipation for the Dalits, it is still not happening at a wider scale. In fact, the pie of reservation has become a matter of politics. We do not see more representation of Dalits in higher offices. Private sector does not provide any affirmative action. Often the upper caste believe that the affirmative action is a poverty alleviation scheme, but that's not the case. Affirmative action only deals with the representation and its need of the hour. When we had Britishers, the upper caste revolted against the Britishers to have more representation of Indians. So why is that the same Indians are against affirmative action in today's time? So this is a very controversial issue, and it requires controversial discussions about it. We are often shying to talk about it. So basically, it is wrong to even express when we talk about the freedom of speech. So basically, the freedom of speech has become about freedom to not offend. And this is where the oppressed community is losing the battle to initiate conversations about many important aspects of oppression. So as I said earlier, that independence is a farce idea, and it will always be as long as we continue the exploitation in different forms. I'm not picturizing a very ideal state, but at least we can reflect on the realities. And unfortunately, we are not mentally prepared to introspect. So I have no further comments, but however, I would leave it for the readers to read and engage and accordingly initiate conversations about. Amen.
How do you see the future of Buddhism in India and overall the world?
I have my own community on WhatsApp and elsewhere where I have uploaded thousands of literature on Buddhism. We often engage Buddhist conversations. Just last night, if you see my tweet, I was cancelled by the Ambedkarite Buddhists to talk about Buddhism with you because they still feel that I am an upper caste despite of conversion into Buddhism. Buddhism does not have a caste. My caste privileges are gone. Buddhism is more in behavior. Buddhism is about how do you present yourself to yourself in order to overcome the idea of self. It is in your social actions. It is about how do you apply wisdom? How do you become better than you were yesterday? How do you smash your own caste privileges after conversion? Is what Buddhism is about. So the future of Buddhism may not be organized. It is much more cultural. It has a bigger qualification of soft power influences. We are seeing how Chinese movies, Japanese movies, even the Western Buddhism promote Buddhism in different forms. So we need to get a bit committed and concentrated on ground to promote and propagate Buddhism. Other people are watching us, so it's important that how we project ourselves is very important.
It was pleasure talking to you, Mr. Jaimine. Thank you for taking your time and for this conversation. I hope it was as interactive as for you and helpful for the others who's going to watch it. Thank you.
Sure, Heman, it was nice speaking to you, and I think this is a very fresh topic to talk about. In fact, very exclusive in last 2 years. We have been talking about many topics pertaining to casteism, apartheid in South Asia. An exclusive session on South Asia coming from your organization based in Pakistan is a very greater achievement for me and my community. Thank you for giving us the mic and the space to talk about. Amen. Have a good day.